Okay, welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam by ISKCON of Naperville. Today we'll be discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, text number 31. Before that, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So 3:22:31. Kushakasham yam barhir आस्तीर्य भगवान् मनुः अयजद्यज्ञपुरुषं लब्धा स्थानं यतो भुवम् कुशकाशां मयं बर्हिर् आस्तीर्य भगवान् मनुः अयजद्यज्ञपुरुषं लब्धा स्थानं यतो भुवम्. One more time. कुशकाशामयं बर्हिर् आस्तीर्य भगवान् मनुः अयजद्यज्ञपुरुषं लब्धा स्थानं यतो भुवम्. Word to word translation. Kusha of Kusha grass, Kasha and of the Kasha grass, Mayam made, Barhi a seat, Astirya having spread, Bhagavan the greatly fortunate, Manuhu Swayambhuva Manu, Ayajat worshipped, Yajna Purusham Lord Vishnu, Labdha had achieved, Sthanam the abode, Yataha from whom, Bhuvam the earth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Manu spread a seat of Kusha and Kashas and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. Purport: Manu is the father of mankind, and therefore from Manu comes the word man, or in Sanskrit, Manushya. Those who are in a better position in the world, having sufficient wealth, should especially take lessons from Manu, who acknowledged his kingdom and opulence to be gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus always engaged in devotional service. Similarly, the descendants of Manu, or human beings, especially those who are situated in a well-to-do condition, must consider that whatever riches they have are gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those riches should be utilized for the service of the Lord in sacrifices performed to please Him. That is the way of utilizing wealth and opulence. No one can achieve wealth, opulence, good birth, a beautiful body, nice education without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, those who are in the possession of such valuable facilities must acknowledge their gratefulness to the Lord by worshipping Him and by offering what they have received from Him. When such acknowledgement is given, either by a family, nation, or a society, their abode becomes almost like Vaikuntha, and it becomes free from the operation of the threefold miseries of this material world. In the modern age, the mission of Krishna consciousness is for everyone, Lord Krishna. Whatever one has in his possession must be considered a gift by the grace of God. Therefore, everyone should engage in devotional service to Krishna consciousness. If one wants to be happy and peaceful in his position, either as a householder or a citizen or a member of human society, one must promote devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. Translation: Manu spread the seat of Kushas and Kashas and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome, everyone. So, continuing our Srimad Bhagavatam discussions. So, the context is uh, Kardama Muni and Devahuti have gotten married, and Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa have returned to their kingdom. And these verses, this whole section from text 28 to the next 12 verses up to text 40, it's going to describe the rule of Manu. So in this particular context, we see how opulent his whole kingdom is. So yesterday, we heard from Manjulila Mataji, she spoke about Barhishmati and how there was all kinds of wealth. It is said that in the previous verse, it is said that, hair from Varahadev's body fell there. It is, and from that, it turned, the grass turned into Kusha and Kasha grass. And so we know that this type of grass is very essential for Vedic um, rituals, right? And it has a certain significance. But the point that I want to focus on today is this particular phrase, by whose grace. So I'll stop sharing the screen now. And Swayambhuva Manu is pretty much the ruler of the entire, like it says, the terrestrial globe. He's the ruler of everything. And yet his mood is that he understands that whatever he has, and therefore he is offering his homage to the Lord. So I was curious that with two words, the word Bhagavan is now being ascribed to Manu, and Prabhupada translates it as the greatly fortunate. And the word Yajna Purusham is being ascribed to the Supreme Lord. Yajna Purusham, yes, he's the beneficiary of all the sacrifices. And he mentions that in the purport as well. So at first I wanted to focus on Bhagavan, and we hear that Parashara Muni, he has defined God as Bhagavan, right? Which means the Bhagas, the one who possesses all the Bhagas, meaning the opulences. So those are 6 in number. And nectar of devotion, and many places in Prabhupada's books, we hear it described, right? There is the strength, fame, beauty, wealth, knowledge, and renunciation. All of those 6, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, possesses them in full. And in Nectar of Devotion, we hear that in chapter 22, not just 22, in that section of chapters, all his opulences are described. So this particular section, chapter 22, item number 48, describes the all opulent Supreme Lord. In fact, Prabhupada gives an example. He says, when Krishna was present in Dwaraka, his family, which is known as Yadu dynasty, consisted of 560 million members. And all of them were obedient and faithful to Krishna. There were more than 900,000 big palatial buildings to house all the people. And devotees were astonished to see the opulence of Krishna. This is just a sliver of his opulence, right? And in that same section, Prabhupada writes, Bilva Mangal Thakur says in Krishna Karnamrita, Bilva Mangal Thakur says, my dear Lord, what can I say about the opulence of your Vrindavan? Simply the ornaments on the legs of the damsels of Vrindavan are more than Chintamani, and their dresses are as good as the heavenly Parijata flowers, and the cows exactly resemble the Surabhi cows in transcendental abode. Therefore, your opulence is just like an ocean that no one can measure. Right? So that is our Supreme Lord. He is supremely opulent. Then, as I was reading, there is a verse from Prabhupada quotes this Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.7. Tam Ishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram. And Tam Devatanam Paramam Cha Daivatam Patim Patinam Paramparastat Vidama Devam Bhuvanesham. So, Tam Ishwaranam. So, Tam meaning he, that. Ishwaranam, amongst the many Ishwaras, the controllers, Paramam Maheshwaram. He is the Paramam, he's the topmost Ishvara, the topmost controller, right? Tam Devatanam, Paramam Chadaivatam. Amongst the many gods, he is the Paramam, that supreme God. Patim Patinam, amongst the many kings, he is the supreme. So that is the position of Krishna. He is the supreme. He possesses all these bhagas, and meaning the opulences. So then one might ask, if he is the possessor of all those bhagas, how are we related to him? Again, a very famous verse that Prabhupada often quotes is from Kathopanishad 2.2.13, and we've perhaps heard the first two lines, but I wanted to read all the four lines. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tam atmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha tesham shanti shashvati netaresham. So Nitya Nityanam. So just like we hear in English, right? Like there is a singular and the plural. So there is one Nitya, then there is Nityanam. There are many Nityas, many eternals. Chetana Chetananam. There is one conscious being, and then there are many conscious beings. Eko Bahunam. So there is that one, and then there are many. Yo Vidadhati Kaman. So what does that one do? Kaman, it fulfills the desires of those many conscious eternal entities. So the one conscious eternal entity fulfills the desires of those eternal conscious entities. And then tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha. So the one, the dhira, if he can see this, tesham shantish shashvati netaresham, what happens to them? Eternal peace. They receive peace. So this is what this Kathopanishad verse says. A similar sentiment is given in Bhagavad Gita 15.7 as well. Mamaivamsa jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana manashashtani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. The opposite is given. So when we understand that we receive from the Lord, there is shanti. But when we don't, what happens is karshati. So Krishna again says, Mamaivamsa jiva. All of these jivas are amsha, meaning fragmental particles of him. And what is our quality? Jiva bhuta sanatanaha. We are eternal, but we are conditioned, jiva bhutaha. But why do we struggle? Because of the mind and the senses. And what does the mind and the sense want to do? It wants us to it drags us away from the Supreme Lord. So this analogy of a tree is given. The tree receives nourishment, right? There is this living force that's moving up and down in a tree. And when you look at the tree, there is this variety there. So there is one trunk to a tree which holds and which supports the many, many leaves and the flowers and the fruits that we see on top of the tree. And yet that one flower, leaf or fruit or a seed, it is connected through a very tiny part, right? Like that stem is very, very infinitesimal. But through that one single tiny connection, basically it receives everything. Everything that is flowing through the trunk is flowing into the leaves as well. But if that one single connection falls off, like if for some reason it is pulled away, then it stops receiving what it is received all along through the trunk. So this connection, this we are these small eternal fragmental parts, amshas of the Supreme Lord. Again, another reference, right, like that tells us about our position is Jivera Swarupahaya Krishnera Nityadas Krishnera Tathastha Shakti Bheda Bheda Prakash Suryam Shakirana Yaiche Agni Jwala Chaya Swabhavika Krishnera Teen Prakasha Shakti Haya. So the same concept we have seen in Upanishad, Kathopanishad, we see that in Bhagavad Gita, and now we see it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 108 and 109. So here it is said that Krishna has three kinds of energies. Tina Prakara Shakti Haya, the internal, marginal, and the external energy. So this marginal energy, which is us, what is our position? Our Swarupa is Krishnera Nityadas. So we are this Tathastha Shakti. So I'll read the translation. It is the living entity's constitutional position to be an internal servant of Krishna because he is the marginal energy of Krishna and a manifestation simultaneously one and different from the Lord. That is this Bheda Bheda Prakash. Like a molecular part of a sunshine or a fire. So we see that, Suryam Shakirana, Yaiche Agni Jwala Chaya, this one speck, when we offer dhoop, we see a little bit of sometimes, from the dhoop, the thing flies up. It is lit for a fraction of a second, and after that it becomes a soot and it falls and it is black and, it's not nice. But as long as it is lit up, as long as it is connected, then it is beautiful. So this is what Madhya Leela says, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that is our position, right? So we see the Supreme Lord who's filled with opulence. He is the Supreme. He is the Lord of all lords. He is the God of all gods. Everything belongs to him. And our position is that as long as we are connected to him, we are lit up too. And again, we saw earlier that a thing that, Prakriti Sthani Karshati, it's a struggle for us if we don't acknowledge this. So, another reference again from Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 5, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayuhu Kham Mano Buddhirevacha Ahankaram Iti Yam Me. Iyam means all of these in Sanskrit. Me. So Krishna is saying all of these are Bhinna Prakriti Rashtada. They are the external energy. But then, the Chaitanya Madhya Leela, I talked about this. Tathashta Shakti, so that is described in 7.5. Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabhaho yaedam dharyate jagat. So that apara prakriti. So apara was what was described before. Para prakriti is being described now. The jiva bhuta, what do they do? They, again, this word idam is being used here. Jiva bhuta mahabhaho yaedam. So idam, this, dharyate. Dharyate means it is being utilized, or Prabhupada says it is being exploited. So the jagat, which is provided by the Lord, it is utilized or exploited by this Tathastha Shakti, the marginal energy, which is us, the jivas. And so, again, I wanted to talk. So, this segues into another section from Ishopanishad, the Ishavasyam, right? Idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat, tena tyaktena bhunjita magrida kasya svidhanam. So, everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So, I Ishopanishad book, but I've written that this is the basis of all morality. Understanding Ishavasya principle is the basis of all morality. And I suppose I've written this from, I can't remember, but it's a nice phrase. But, for example, we talked about few weeks ago, I had a conversation with a homeschooling mom, and we talked about communism, capitalism, which is better, because we were thinking, about the insurance and how the companies fleeces the doctors, well, anyway, the whole nexus. But basically, be it communism or capitalism, it's all bunch of thieves who are distributing wealth in their own way. And so there is no happiness in this society. There is no happiness in society of thieves anyway. Uh, So Prabhupada writes in this purport in this Ishavasya book, he says a laborer cannot claim to be a proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it. The other example we hear is of a teller, right? A bank teller may have wads and wads of notes. He may give it to you, but he can never think that that money is his. So the wealth that we have, and I'm going to open it up and say the opulence we have, any sort of opulence, right? Like education, knowledge, strength, beauty, fame, whatever Krishna has given us is not ours. It is given to us by him. And so we understand, if we understand that he is the proprietor, then okay, so here is another very strong statement from Ishopanishad. The root of sin is deliberate disobedience of the laws of nature through disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. One who is sober knows the laws of nature and who is not influenced by unnecessary attachment or aversion is sure to be recognized by the Lord and become eligible to go back to Godhead, back to his eternal home. There's many beautiful phrases in this Ishopanishad. But yeah, like for example, Prabhupada says, human life alone is a life of responsibility. So anyway, this I was thinking there is one other verse which I wanted to quote for today and then perhaps open it up is 529, the peace formula, right? Bhoktaram yajñatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam nyatva mam shantim richati. So we can see, we saw it in that Shveta Ashvatara Upanishad, the Kathopanishad verse, the Nityo Nityanam verse. We saw that in the other earlier seventh chapter verse as well. And now we see this again. We keep seeing this, that this is a principle of peace and happiness. So, Bhoktaram, the beneficiary, who is the beneficiary of Yajna Tapasam? The Yajna is the beneficiary. It is the Supreme Lord. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he is the Supreme Lord. He is the beneficiary. He is Sarva Bhutanam, of all the living entities. Nyatva, one who knows this, one who knows me, Shantim Richati, to him there is peace. He receives relief from material pangs. Richati, right? Like, so he achieves that. So, in to tie it all in, Prabhupada in the purport, he makes many points, right? So, one who has sufficient wealth and sufficient opulence and gifts must engage those in the Supreme Lord. And we see examples, right? Like, be it the modern day Ambarish Prabhu or the Bhagavatam personality, Ambarish Maharaj, be it Yudhishthir Maharaj, they have all shown us how wealth can be utilized in serving the Lord. So the next point from Prabhupada's purport that I wanted to talk about is, or that's coming up, is this. He says, in the modern age, the mission of Krishna consciousness is for everyone to acknowledge the supremacy of Lord Krishna. So I was thinking, I was speaking with a parent yesterday regarding Sunday school, and really this is our goal, like to give the spark of Krishna consciousness, whatever be it, to connect everybody to Krishna. That is our mission. Be it our Sunday school, be it, like Amala Bhakti Mataji does decorations, right? Like people who come, they feel attracted to the temple, coming attracted. So every single service, or be it Sunday feast serving, that offering of prasadam in the smiling face and wanting those people to come back to our temple. Every single little service is to attract the other soul back to Krishna, and that is our mission. That is this missionary spirit, in one sense. And so, what happens if one wants to be happy and peaceful in this position, either as a householder or a member of human society, one must promote devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. So, clearly, our outreach mission is being described here. And I have one more minute before the hour. And I was thinking, basically in this purport, Prabhupada has all those four principles. Books are the basis, purity is the force, preaching is the essence, and utility is the principle. So he's talking about the utility. Everything that we have belongs to him, utilizing it in his service. Preaching. What do? We take it all and we reach out to those lost souls. I mean, I am one of them. So utilize it for my own purpose and for the purpose of others as well. So I think we are at the top of the hour. I'll pause. Any reflections or comments, please let me know. Okay. So if not anything, we'll end here. Thank you all for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री